welcome to another crafty video. Today's one is a little bit different because I'm actually sewing in today's video. So a little bit of a different craft for us paper crafters, but I think a lot of us have dabbled in sewing over the years as well. But the lovely company called Pop Sewing sent me one of their beautiful DIY bag kits that allows you to have everything you need to create your own real leather bag. And I actually picked the leather contrast colour backpack, so it's a beautiful mini little backpack, and in this video you'll see the whole process of the backpack going together. I'm not sure how much of all of the sped up bits and pieces that I will keep into it, but you will see the whole process of putting the whole bag together, how you can easily follow along with the tutorial that they provide. Whichever bag you buy, you will get provided with a YouTube video tutorial that is very easy to follow along, and it has annotations on there that give you all of the instructions you need for how much thread you need to use at each point and everything as well. It's really handy instructions, and very easy to just pause the video or rewind it and watch a section again as well as you're working with it. Yeah, at the beginning of this video I just want to say thank you so much to Pop Sewing for sending me this kit to play with. I have a tracked link in the description below the video, so if you want to click on that link when you're buying your kit, it'll really help and support me. Plus, as a bonus, Pop Sewing has given me a code, Crafty Potential, that you can use on your order and you'll get 20% off of your order. So it's a great deal for grabbing a bargain, and these kits are really nice just for making a bag for yourself, or for making the bag and gifting it to somebody else, or for just buying a kit and gifting it as a gift as well. If you know somebody who loves sewing, this might be a really cool project. So I'm just going to bring in my finished backpack because I decided to film this beginning part at the end so that I could actually show you my gorgeous finished real leather backpack that I've created. I can't believe I've actually sewn all of this together, and I wanted to try and keep track of real time how long this took me. I'll put on the screen exactly how long it took me with all of the footage added up, but I'm pretty sure it was about 6.5 hours kind of mark to put all of this together. And I think on the website they tell you which, you know, if you go through and pick a bag, it tells you the beginner, intermediate, advanced level, the complication of it. You know, is it easy or is it more of an advanced kind of sewing one as well? Is it a beginner sort of sewing one? And the rough time scale that it will take as well. This one was in the bracket over 5 hours because I think it's mainly these pieces were quite time consuming to sew all of the way around there. But I reckon 6.5 hours was a good amount of time to finish this bag, and I obviously was following along with the video whilst filming and talking to you as well, but that kind of adds in, you know, the amount of time somebody might pop into your room whilst you're sewing it or something, you know. I think 6.5 hours is a good time frame to set yourself to kind of try and make a bag like this. And I really enjoyed the process and learning a new stitch as well. So when you're sewing leather, you want to use a saddle stitch to sew it together, and she shows you exactly how to do the saddle stitch in the video, and obviously if you rewind and watch it a few times you'll pick up on all the different bits to get you going. It seems more complicated than it is. It is definitely easier than I was anticipating it to be, but you'll get quicker as you're doing it, because if you have sewn before and you're more used to doing like sewing stitch or running stitch, because a saddle stitch has a needle on both ends of your thread, I was getting a bit confused to begin with and forgetting what stitch I was doing and starting to go into a running stitch or a back stitch or, you know, something like that. But by the time I was like at least a quarter of the way round the first side of this bag and then sewing on the second side, I was so much quicker, so much more confident doing the stitch, and it's a really easy stitch to do once you've got in your head, you know, if the needle's on the top of the leather, then I'm probably going to be going down the next hole, and, you know, stuff like that, figuring it out. And on your desk, making sure, you know, when you're working for these long areas, you've got a really long piece of thread, and making sure you kind of put like one needle with its bunch of thread over here, one needle over here, and then you don't get tangled and things as well. But I think it's a really fun process of something different to do. And on the Pop Sewing website, there are over 200 different bags that you can pick from, whether it's something really small, whether it's just a key ring. Actually, they do some beautiful custom design sort of key rings in there as well, whether it's a shoulder bag, a small or a large sort of sized handbag, a backpack. There's so many different ones to pick from with different difficulty levels as well, if you want to pick an easier one than I did to start with. Although I do think this is pretty simple to put together. Actually, I didn't struggle with it. There was a couple of bits. I would say these parts, attaching these bits on, was probably the hardest, and in the instructions that's one of the first things you do. Is it like the second or third bit that you do? I think I would recommend, I say this later on in the video, I would recommend that not sewing these bits on until the point where you're about to sew this large back piece on, and then go to sew these on, because I feel by that point you're so used to the saddle stitch, it makes it so much easier to do these smaller parts, because I was getting so confused because there's not many stitches. Trying to remember how you do a saddle stitch when you'd only done it a couple of times before, I think it'd be much better to save this slightly more fiddly portion to later on in the construction build. But yeah, other than that, I think the order that they give you the instructions is perfect for putting this together. And this bag is actually made of genuine cowhide leather, but it's cow split leather. And from my research, I don't really know anything about leather, but cow split leather is apparently the cowhide is quite thick, so they split it into different layers to use, and then they put a PU leather coating on one side of it. So on the website it does say this has a PU leather lining to it. So I'm not sure if this is real leather or if the other side's real leather, or if both sides have a PU coating on it, but it has got real leather in it. So it is actually genuine cow split leather. And it's really high quality, nice and sturdy. It's going to, I mean, because you sew this inside out, it's going to need a little bit of fiddling with it to kind of get these edges to kind of stay exactly how you want them to, but it's going to hold its shape nicely from the weight of this leather. And also, all of the pieces you'll see in the next couple of clips, all of the pieces are already cut for you. They're finished on the edges. They've got all of the holes ready on there. They even have larger holes in places to indicate where things are supposed to go together. You get everything you need in this kit. You get little bulldog clips with leather on them so that you're not damaging your leather when you're clipping pieces together, to help you hold it into position whilst you're sewing. You get a little flat-headed screwdriver for when you're adding these little pieces to hold the straps on the back. You even get a thimble in case you need it. You get a little test tube with 4 needles, and you only need 2 needles, so if you accidentally lose one, you've got 4 in there. And this needle is really lovely. They're sharp, but they're not sharp enough to that you keep stabbing yourself with it. I think I probably stabbed myself a couple of times, but it didn't draw blood. It's not like a really, really sharp kind of needle. It's the pointed, but more of like a blunt point on it. A very, very good needle for this process, I found. Obviously that's why they include them, but definitely a really good needle. Plus you get your spool of waxed thread in here, and in some cases you have bits left over, so I'm going to keep these pieces that were actually left over from sewing the second side of the bag on, to try and make some journals and things, and do a stab binding journal. Because you often use wax thread for that because it's going to last longer, so I'm going to keep those for doing that kind of thing. And I've got the rest of this reel of the wax thread as well. Plus you also get a set of snips for cutting all of your loose threads off as well. And there are a couple of different ways that you can end off your threads too. You can use a lighter if you don't mind fire. I don't like fire, so I didn't do that method. But you can also use, I think she's showing a super glue in the video, but I actually just used Fray Check. I used to use this all the time when I was doing my beading. You used to put Fray Check on the end of the thread and then go back through the beading that you've done. And with this you do a couple of back stitches, and then you put the Fray Check or glue on after you've cut the threads down really short. So there's different methods of how you might want to secure your ends in there as well. And then I also was going to say, I love, this is probably a really, really simple threading your needle method and way of stopping the thread from coming off the end of it, but I don't think I've ever seen it before, unless my nan taught it to me when I was younger and I've just forgotten. But the way she shows you how to thread your needle is obviously you put the thread through the eye of the needle and then you come down like 1.5 inches and you go back through the thread. You deliberately split the thread and then you pull the needle on and then it just stays there, and you don't have to worry about it coming off the end of the needle and unthreading or anything as you're going through, and you haven't got an annoying knot there that makes it difficult to get through the hole or makes it difficult to get the needle off in case you've gone wrong, because obviously in the beginning you're going to go wrong a little bit more often. And that way they tell you to put the needle on the end of this is really easy to undo. So then you can take the needle off, pull this back through the hole, and then start again. Or undo a knot that's happened in there as well. And because it is a waxed thread, the knots come out really easily as well, which is very good, because I think if you were getting to like 2/3 of the way round the perimeter of this bag and you got a knot in your thread and it wasn't waxed, I don't think you'd be able to get the knot out, and then you would not want to have to unpick all of that to redo it all again. So it's a brilliant thread for doing all of the sewing that you need to do on this. So yeah, you get everything you need, and I would say overall I have loved this project. I really wish I had started it sooner, because Pop Sewing sent it to me a couple of months ago, but I've been so busy I hadn't had a chance to start it until August. But I have enjoyed it so much. I spread it out over, I think it's been 4 days that I've spread it out over, but it has been such an enjoyable process. I would say the first few steps of doing it, I was 100% concentrating, but by the time I'd got to the point where I was getting more used to how a saddle stitch works, I could watch the telly or listen to music or something whilst I was doing it as well. So you do get more used to it, and you can actually, get away with doing something else whilst you're working. And actually, I was thinking maybe it would be quite nice if I take a piece of card, if I take a hole punch, and if I punch some holes along here, I was thinking I could try and show you a saddle stitch in larger format, just using a piece of card and some baker's twine, because I feel like maybe that would be quite useful if you're going to get any of these leather bags to play around with. I feel like knowing how to do the saddle stitch ahead of time and how simple it is quite a confidence boost. And I did actually find some other YouTube videos just on saddle stitch as well, just to make sure I was kind of going to do it the right way. So I'm just going to get some baker's twine. Okay, so I've just got a nice bright orange colour here, and I'm just going to cut off a length of this and then pretend I've got a needle threaded on each end. I don't need a needle, so I'm not going to bother threading them, but pretend there is a needle on each end of this, and basically you're going to come, I don't think it really matters which way you go. She does kind of indicate to you. I was following the exact way that she did it. I like slowed it down and watched it again, but I think basically what you want to do to begin with is go through one hole with one end and make sure you've got an equal amount, and then you take the other one and you put it through the next hole. So you've now got both ends of this are threaded, and you've kind of started a running stitch on here. Then you have it over this way. You always go in the same direction. So if I'm going with the second hole and I'm pulling this twine away from me, I'm always going to be pulling that twine away from me in that direction. And then you take this one and you go back down this hole. So you pull that one out of the way and you go back down there, and then you ignore this one for now, and now you're on the top of the leather. You then come back down the next hole. Then you do exactly the same thing. You pull this one out of the way in that direction, and then you take this one and you go down this hole. Then you ignore this one for now. Now you're back on top of the leather, and you take this one and you go down this hole. Then you turn it back over. Then you're pulling that one out of the way in the same direction again, and you go through this hole. Then you flip it back over. You're ignoring the one underneath, and you go back through the top again. So it feels a little bit different doing this stitch when I can actually see through the holes and see both sides of it, but that is the basic principle of a saddle stitch. You're kind of actually doing a figure of 8. I didn't really realise that when I was sewing it all together, but you are kind of doing like a figure of 8 around all of the pieces here. So I'll do it close up to show you again. So if they're both on the underside, you're knowing that this one has got to be pulled out of the way. I could not remember that when I was starting this stitch out, but now I know if they're both on the underside, I'm pulling that one out of the way, and the next thing to do is to go up that hole with the other thread. Then I ignore the one that I'd been pulling out of the way, go back up to the top, and the one that's on the top then goes down the next hole. I hope this is kind of helpful. I don't know whether it will be, but I thought I'd just include it just in case. So you're pulling that one out of the way in the same direction, and then you're going, it would help if I had a needle on the end, and then you're going down that hole, and then you're turning it back over, and you're going down from the top. I really don't know if that is helpful at all, but I thought it would kind of be a little visual of what a saddle stitch is supposed to look like, and it's basically giving you the perfect running stitch on both sides at the same time. And actually when you have moved this one out of the way, when you pull that one up out of the way and you go back through, you're actually ending up with a thread on each side, and this is the point where you're tightening your stitch. So when you're working on the actual leather, you're trying to sew two pieces together rather than just the one piece there. So you are actually like pulling it tightly at this point, and then the one that is now on the top goes back down through this hole. And then every time you're going back through the same hole that one thread is already coming out of, you're tugging it and making it nice and strong. And then you're going back down this hole. So I think it's a really nice stitch to know how to do, actually, this saddle stitch. It gives a beautiful effect on both sides, and I think it's probably going to be one that I'll adopt for other things in the future as well, actually. So I don't know whether that will actually be helpful. It kind of depends how you learn and if that was confusing or not. I'm hoping I kind of explained it all right, but if you watch the tutorial video as well, because I presume all of the leather bags would have the same sewing method, because I think this is the traditional way to sew leather, is using the saddle stitch. Yeah, so hopefully that was kind of helpful, and you'll see me doing the actual saddle stitch on the leather as we go through the video as well. I'll probably zoom in and show little pieces up close, as well as showing it in a sped up format as well. So hopefully this video will kind of show you the sort of process behind making one of these gorgeous leather bags from Pop Sewing. So I will leave you at this point and pass you over to Past Me, who sewed this bag together. And just another reminder, don't forget there is a tracked link in the description below the video, and you can use the code CraftyPotential along with that link to get you 20% off of your order as well, if you're interested in getting hold of one of these beautiful leather DIY bag kits. Look how lovely the packaging is for this as well, that you get it, it was in a separate box when they shipped it to me, and then it's also in a lovely box with their gorgeous Pop Sewing tape around it as well. So when you open your box, you've got everything in here that you need, and they give you this piece of paper at the beginning as well, which tells you how to get hold of the instructions. They will actually email them to you, but if you haven't got the email, you can get hold of them to get the link to the YouTube video, because there is their own YouTube video that gives you all of the details you need, and that's what I'm going to be following to be able to construct mine, because it tells you how much thread you need for different pieces, what all of the pieces are kind of referred to, the different numbers of them, so you can put them together in the correct order and everything as well. So I will be following along with their YouTube video whilst I'm making this. So in this box as well, I've also got a gorgeous little key ring. It's actually their lovely rainbow logo. It's really sweet, gorgeous little key ring. So I might be adding that to my backpack once I've finished it. I have gone for the white of these backpacks, which is the contrast colour backpack, but I think the pink one is now back in stock as well, which has, I think most of it is pink, and then I think it's got a black base to it, whereas this one is white with yellow base and yellow accents to it as well. I thought the yellow would go quite nicely with the coats that I kind of wear. I've got a navy blue one and I've got a grey one, and I feel like a mustard yellow goes quite nicely with both of those different colours. So I thought this would be the nicest colour option for me. And I thought this would just make quite a nice different kind of project to play around with, and I thought you might like to see part of the process of putting this together, and it makes a really lovely gift for somebody, or you just have the fun of creating your gorgeous bag yourself, and it doesn't have to be a backpack. I just went for a backpack because that's the kind of bag that I would quite like. I've wanted a small little backpack for a while and not found one that I liked, so I thought, well, why not sew myself one? But you can get beautiful handbags as well, all sorts of different handbags with like shoulder straps, crossbody straps, purses, different key rings and decorations as well. So there's so much to choose from on the website. But when you get hold of your kit, you get everything you need in here. So you have all of the tools and things provided. So we've got, let's get a little tray here so I can put them all in so I don't lose them. We've got a little one of these test tubes with 4 needles in, because a lot of this in particular, I think a lot of leather sewing actually, you have to use saddle stitch because it makes it nice and neat on both sides, and with saddle stitch you need a needle on each end of your thread. So they've been very kind and given you 4 needles, so you've got plenty if one goes blunt, one goes missing or anything. We've got plenty of needles. We've also got some bulldog clips and extra little bits of leather here as well that will protect your leather when you need to clip 2 pieces together. You can put the actual scrap leather around your pieces of leather and then clip it, and then you're not going to mark them. We've also got a little thimble as well, which is brilliant, and we have these little snips too for cutting any of your loose thread. So it's really nice that they've even included something like this as well. So I'm going to put that off to one side, and then in this bag here we have all of the leather pieces, and this backpack is actually made of genuine cowhide leather or cow split leather. They've called it both in different areas on the website, but it's genuine leather. I don't think I've ever actually owned anything that's been real leather. It's really gorgeous. It's got that lovely patterning on one side of it, and then it's really nice and smooth on the back side of it, but really pretty. Look at that colour. So this is going to be the pop, so it's called a or contrast colour backpack. This is going to be like the pop of that contrast colour on mine. This is going to be the base of it. And I did actually see, I think it was someone's review, they'd actually put this piece on upside down or backwards, so the smooth side was out so that their whole backpack was the same colour. I don't know if it's wise to do that or not, but I think maybe it will work if you do put it around the other way. But I really like that pop of colour. And you also have the zip pulls to match as well that you add on at a later date. And you have every single piece here that you need for putting this together. Plus, in this little piece here, we have got our thread, which you're going to have to watch your instructional video to know exactly how much thread to use, but it tells you like 8 lengths of piece 1 of leather and stuff like that for when you're working out how much of the thread you need to sew the specific parts together without wasting it or not having enough. You also get a little flat-headed screwdriver. I think this is for some of the hardware pieces on here for sort of attaching them in. I think you need a little screwdriver for part of it. We've also got in here some of our metal attachments, so buckles and D-rings and things. Yeah, these are the parts. These kind of little rivets in here are what we're going to need that screwdriver for. But look, these are really good quality. Really nice, heavy, sturdy metal hardware. So I'm going to put that in my little tray so I don't lose them. Put my thread and my screwdriver there as well. And then we have also got the backpack straps as well here in a separate little bag to keep them all nice and protected. And there's even the little cuffs because you can adjust it with the little buckles. So you've got both of the straps in here as well, and they're finished on both sides. They've got the nice side of the leather on both sides. They're really gorgeous. And you've got the little bands there as well. And everything that's difficult is like built into it. Like for example, the zip is already a part of the leather, and this zip for the pocket is already a part of the leather as well, which is really nice. And I noticed when I was looking through, they have given you a sheet of stickers, and on the first screen of the video it tells you which piece is what number. So I'm actually going to go through and I'm going to label all of my pieces with the numbers so that it makes it easier when I'm putting this together. I'm going to put a 4 on that side, and I'm also going to put a 4 on the back as well, just in case I see it from one side or the other. We've got these lovely protective pieces between all of the leather, so nothing is going to get damaged in transit with any of the zip pieces digging in or anything like that, which is really nice to know. Then this piece is number 1. So let's go number 1, and I'll label the other side as well. So you've got both our number 1s there. This piece is number 2. Is this finished on both sides? Yeah, this is finished on both sides. It's got the lovely texture on both sides of this panel piece. This piece is number 5. That one does have a front and a back. Oop. And on the back of that one, then this piece is number 3. That's also finished on both sides. I think that's the top handle of the bag. These pieces are number 7. So I'll just do one on each of these. And also, if you notice in places, some holes are larger than others because this indicates where things are supposed to attach to and join to at different areas. Like with lots of die sets that we get, you often have different indicators to show where something is supposed to line up. Within the sewing on this, we actually have larger holes to kind of depict that, which is really cool actually. I didn't even think about that as being a sort of concept of how you could do these kind of kits of sewing things together, but it's really, really cool. Then we have got this piece, which is number 6. Then, what other piece is this? Piece is number 8. And those little buckle loop things that we had before, these are number 9, so I'll just put a little number 9 on those as well. So I've got those ready off to the side. I'll put these off to the side as well. Is that everything labelled? Yeah, there's nothing that's labelled as 0. So I think that's everything labelled. I can see on the screen, I'm looking at my tablet off to the side with the instructional video up on there to see all of the pieces. But I've now got everything nicely labelled, and I think the first step as part of the video, oh, this is really nice, it's got a double zipper. You've got 2 zips on the actual main portion of the backpack, which is really nice, and it's very very interesting. I mean, we're so used to putting together cardboard sets of things. It's very interesting to see how different it is with something that is sewn and that's made of like leather or fabric. Because obviously you don't need glue tabs and things, but you've then got all of the piercing around the edges to be able to join the pieces together with sewing. It's really nice to see the difference between that actually, and it kind of lends itself nicely to our card making if you want to give this a go. You know, it's a similar kind of process to actually you know, putting die sets together and things, making 3-dimensional projects. So yeah, I think the first step of making this beautiful backpack, I think it involves, is it these 2 pieces? I think it's 1 and 2, which would kind of make sense, wouldn't it, that you'd start with number 1 and 2. Let's put all of these bits off to one side. Let me put these back in the box so I don't lose anything. Yep, so we need leather 1 and 2, and we need to be able to distinguish the front from the back, and the front is the textured side and the back is the smooth side. And they're saying that we want to put the back side of the leather 1 to the back side of leather 2, but this has actually got both sides on it, so I'm guessing just the back side of leather 1, and then this is just going to go on top of it. And it's saying that the first piece that we're going to need, we need 8 times the length of this portion of our leather to get the length of our thread. So let's open our spool of thread. You can also with the whole Pop Sewing website, if there's anything that you really love the look of, but maybe you haven't got the time to do it yourself, or you don't think you're going to be able to do it to a high enough standard, you can actually buy, for an additional fee, you can buy the finished versions as well if you don't want to actually put them together yourself. So you've also got that option. I hope this is going to be enough thread on here. I presume it will be. But it's like a really nice waxed thread, very waxy waxed thread, which is going to be nice and strong for our leather backpack. There we go, got the end of that free. So she's saying 8 times the length of this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 brings us to here. Okay, then we're using our lovely snips that we're provided with to snip that off, and we'll put our thread back in our tray so we don't lose it. Then now we actually, to do the saddle stitch for this, we need to thread a needle onto both ends of our thread. I'm just seeing how she's going to tell us how to secure it, whether we have to tie it in a knot. Okay, I don't think I've ever seen that method of threading a needle before, but she's saying in the video, or showing in the video, because it's just annotations, but she's saying to get both of your needles and to thread it onto the end of the thread, which is very easy to do because it's lovely and waxed. And then she's going down about 1.5 inches and poking the needle through the thread to make a hole through the thread, and then she just kind of like pulls that and then pushes it back up again. Wow, I've never seen that before. That's really clever. That really secures it on the end of there. That's really cool. Okay, let's show that again. I'd never seen anybody do that before. So you take your thread, make sure the ends are nicely together, then thread it through the eye of your needle, pull the thread through to about 1.5 inches, oh, well, through a bit further, and then about 1.5 inches down from the end of the thread, you're taking the needle and splitting the thread, and then you pull the needle through that split and it makes this loop, and then you're pushing that loop up to the end of the eye of the needle. That is really cool. I've never seen a needle threaded like that. So there we go, we've got our double-ended needled thread piece ready for our saddle stitch, and our thread is 8 times the length of the height of our #1 backpack piece. Okay, so first of all, to start this off, she's saying we're lining up this piece here onto here, and she's saying that, note that there is an extra hole above the leather on this, and then she's saying go through the first hole from the back, like so, just through the first hole, and then pull this up and then equalise the thread. So you've now got, you're sort of in the middle portion of your thread just there. Then she's saying take the second needle. So the first needle is the one that we just came up through the back with, that's the first needle. And then she's saying take this second needle, come up through the second hole on this portion here, and go through the first hole of the pocket piece and pull that all the way through. Okay, so I'm now just following along, so I don't know if this is going to be really boring for you to try and follow, but let's just see. I think it's important to show you kind of how to start things off like this. So she's moved this thread up here, and I think she's now coming back onto this thread. Then she's pulling this thread away from the hole, going back through the hole and to the other side without splitting the thread. I think this is how you do that saddle stitch. And we're tugging it. I think that's what she's done. I hope it's what she's done. Okay. Then tug outwardly. Start the process over again. So you're still using the same needle that we were just using, but now we're coming up through the third hole like that, and then we're going back to the other needle. Which way did she just pull that? Yes, then she's picking up the other one, and she's always pulling upwards. Okay, so once you've decided on that first one that you're pulling the thread upwards, you're always pulling the thread upwards and then going through the hole behind the thread, and then pull this through. Okay, let's see, it should look, yep, looks neat on the other side. So then you take, if I'm doing this correctly, you take the same thread that you just went back through the hole with, and you go up through the next hole. Then you put that one over there and pull it that way, and then go back to the other needle and go back down through the hole without splitting the thread. Okay. And then we do a tug and we go back up the next one. Okay, this is pretty easy to do. I say that, I'm probably going to jinx it now and do something wrong, but okay. Let me just double check that's what she's doing. So I'm going to carry on all of the way around the edge of this piece. So we're now going to move. So, I've got to this point. I would say, make sure you're concentrating, because the number of times where I've almost like come through this one, gone, and I've wanted to go back through with this one back here like a back stitch. So if you're not paying attention, you might do that, and if you do that, you're going to have to unthread your needle to pull the thread back through. But you can unthread this. Where you've gone through the thread to split it, and then you've sort of pulled it round, it is possible to undo this and put it back over and then rethread it again. So don't worry if that does happen, you can easily undo that little thing that we did at the beginning. And if you get a knot, you might have to undo that too, but because this is really nice and waxed, the knot comes undone really easily as well. So I just thought I'd say that. Also, I found working on the glass mat really helpful, because if you pull this one out of the way and you have to go back through those two holes, if you go back through, if you're working on a glass mat, you know that you've got through to the other side because you can hear the end of the needle on the glass. So I found that very helpful going round, you know, to make sure that I've been doing it properly and going through the actual holes rather than making my own new hole. So now I've got to this point, I'm going to watch the next little bit of the video to see how she finishes off this pocket. She's got to the end of this, so I need to move that one out of the way before I try and do back stitch again, and I'm going to get to the end where she's just come through this hole with whichever needle it ends up being. So I'm going to get to that point and then I'll carry on watching the video. Okay, so I've got to here, and then she's pulling this needle back through, so they're... Has she got them both on the back? No, this one's on the front, and then this one's going through to the back to finish that stitch off. Like that. Then she's saying to finish, take the needles, back stitch 2 or 3 holes in the opposite direction until both needles are on the bottom of the big piece of leather. Okay, so let's see what she does. She's taking the one that's on the top and going back through this hole. Okay, back through this hole. Okay. Okay, it looks like she's flipping it over and then just doing the saddle stitch backwards. So pulling that one out of the way and going through. There we go. Okay. Okay. Okay, now she's showing this one going back through here. It's really helpful doing that glass mat trick, I think. Tapping your needle on to check you're in the right position. Okay, then... Okay, she's keeping both threads on this side. Because we're on the inside of the bag, that'll be why. Okay, and she's pulling those really tightly and then taking our little snips and chopping them off like so. You've actually got quite a bit of of the 2 threads left, which is really nice. That when they're giving you that estimate of how much you're going to need, they're actually giving you more than you need, so it's not too difficult and you're working with small little bits of thread, which is very good. And then I think there's 2 ways of sealing that. You can either use a lighter, which I'm not going to do because I don't like fire and I don't own a lighter, or you can put glue on there. So I'm going to see what glue she's going to use. You know, I think I'm just going to use my Cosmic Shimmer glue. I know it's technically not a fabric glue, but it seems to stick everything. I've stuck glass back together with this glue, so I'm going to do tiny dabs of that just to seal off those little ends there. You don't want to get the glue on the leather though. Okay, hopefully that will hold that into position. We will find out in time how well that holds up. So we've now got to this point where we have got these 2 pieces sewn together, and look how neat it looks on the other side. I've never done a saddle stitch before, but that's really cool that it looks perfect on both sides. I'm going to be adopting that stitch for more different things. Not that I sew that often, but you know, when you do sew, it's quite nice to know a really good neat stitch. Okay, so for the next step, she's saying we need piece number 3 and our 2 D-rings, and this is going to be the handle of the bag, and it's also going to be with the D-rings where we attach the straps of the rucksack as well. And there are 4 sections here that we need to sew, and she's saying this first one that we need to sew before we can put that D-ring on, we need 2 lengths of the height of our backpack piece to do that. So we're going to go 1, 2, and then okay, we've got 2 lengths there, and we're going to thread our needles in exactly the same way as we did at the beginning. So we're going to thread that through, go down like 1.5 inches, go through the middle of the thread, and then pull it upwards. That's such a cool way of stopping the thread from coming off the end of your needle. Okay. It's probably something really simple and basic, but I don't think I've ever seen anybody do it before. Okay, so now we've got our double-ended thread here again. Now she is showing that she's holding this piece. This is double-sided, so it doesn't actually matter which way round we go. She's holding this piece like this. She's turning this over, and she's starting on this hole here. So if we go through that hole, and then the corresponding hole there. Okay, then that's definitely not even. Let's see what she says after this part. Okay, she's just lengthening them out over here. Then she's moving that one out of the way and coming up through the second hole with this one. Okay. Like so. And I guess we'll lengthen these out like this maybe. Okay, so we've got that. Then okay, then we're just going to do our normal saddle stitch to sew this one on. So we're going to pull that tight, and then I think we're pulling this one away and going back through. Like so. And then I come back up on this side. Okay, then I pull that one away and I go through this one, again doing that glass mat trick, and I pull this one through, pull it taut. I think as we go on we're going to be getting quicker with this saddle stitch, and we're also going to be having smaller sections and bits in some places, so some parts are going to go much quicker than others. This perimeter is going to take a long time because I think we have to sew all the way around that perimeter twice to put the whole sort of middle section of the bag in. So that's going to be probably the most time consuming part of this. I may abandon the desk and go and do that on the sofa, depending how my back's feeling. Okay, so I'm moving that one up there. And this one down here. Pull that taut. Go in this hole. It's always nice to learn something new. And I feel like this is something that's, you know, a different kind of skill that you've probably not done before, sewing leather together. Okay, the second side of this strap was a right kerfuffle. I don't know what I kept doing wrong. I think maybe I need to stop for the day and then look at it with fresh eyes tomorrow, but we got to this point now, and I'm just going to snip those as closely as I can. Sorry for the clunking noise. Are these ones better? Yes. Note to self, use the ones that actually come with your kit. They work very well. Okay, so just going to take some more fray check. Sorry about Pumpkin. He's barking at the neighbour's dog. Okay, so we've now got a bit of fray check on these. I might just double check these ones are all good as well. I want to make sure this is nice and strong because this is going to be part of the backpack straps as well. So we want to make sure that is nice and strong. I have gone a little bit messy with the glue, but this is the inside of the bag. So I don't really mind if there's little tiny bits of glue. So now we've got 1, 2 and 3 together. We've got our gorgeous little handle for our bag. I really hope I've put that on correctly because I don't really want to try and do that again. I think I have. I think that's the correct way for it to loop like that. I hope that's right. Right, now we've done this part, we're moving on to 4 and 5, so we can leave that out of the way for now. So 4 is this part with our zip on, and 5 is, I guess, the inside of that pocket. And I think we're going to need some clips at this point, so we've got our clips over here. Let's see what the next step is. So we want to take this one backwards, and I guess we want to put the back side of that in there, so don't leave a sticker on the inside because we won't be able to get it out. Let the back side stick with the back side. Okay, I need to go back and check what she said. 5 times the length of this is the next piece of thread that we need. Okay, then, so I don't think we have to use a clip, but she's saying we can use a clip to help us. And that is the hole that we start with. So I'm going to just get one of these clips with the leather in there so that we're not going to damage this, and we can just line this up. And you know what I said before about larger holes? There's 2 large holes on the side here, and there's 2 large holes on that side there, so we can know by lining those up if we're in the correct position. And then we can just put that around to hold it into place. And I might do another one just to make sure we're really holding it nicely in the right position. So pull those legs down with the bulldog clip. And I think I'm going to peg here. Because I think all we're doing at the moment is sewing along this. We're just going to double check that's what we're doing. Okay, we're clipping it like that. And then we're taking one of these and we're coming up from the bottom on the first hole. And so it's the hole, when we line everything up, with that in line, it is the first hole just above, oh well, there's a whole line of holes there. It's that one just above the black bit there with the other holes in line with it that we're aiming for. So you can go through that one and then through this corner and pull that through and not get our thread all caught up in our fray check. That would be helpful. And then we can lengthen those two off, and then I'm just going to double check how she properly starts this. So now she's going with the underneath one and she's coming up in the hole next to it. Oh. Okay, in the hole next to it there, and then the hole next to it there. Okay, so we've gone through with that one and then we come back to the first one. I always forget how you start it off. Okay, pull that through like this. She's taking this one. Saddle stitch is certainly so much easier to keep on top of and in rhythm with when you're going in a straight line compared to those fiddly little handle pieces, but I've almost got to the end here and I'm just going to watch the video again to see how she finishes off the end of this. I presume you go right to the end, but I'm just checking. Okay, so you don't go over the end, you go right to the end hole and then you come back again and do the little bit of back stitch and then do the glue on there as well. So let's come up through there. It's really tricky to know what direction you're going in when you're doing those little amounts of stitches. I was getting so confused with what direction I was supposed to be going, but it's much easier to stay on track when you're actually going in a straight line. Much easier. Okay, so now we're just going to come back up this hole, then reverse our direction and then go this one through this hole, I think. So we're now on the same side, and then we go this one back up through this hole. And then we pull that one out of the way and go this one back through this hole. Okay. And then just one more going back through this hole. So we've back stitched it a little bit. Okay, then chopping these off really close and using our fray check again. Okay, so it's now the next day and I have just done one piece. I haven't done anything else without you other than this one piece because this next part looked a little bit more complicated, so I thought I'd show this on camera as well. And I did one side because the other side is exactly the same, so I thought if I get one side done I'll be a little bit more knowing what I'm doing for the other side. But the next part of this backpack one, I've got my thread ready. It's twice the length of this piece that we're working with, and this is piece number 6, which is the like contrast colour piece from your backpack. So I've got piece number 6, then we also need the 2 number 7 pieces, we also need the 2 number 9 pieces, and we also need this buckle, the 2 buckles as well. And there is a specific way that these go around. I'll take all of these numbers off of these pieces now, but there is a specific way that these go around, and you have to do it the opposite way for the other side. So I've done this one, and this little lifty uppy piece of the buckle goes in this direction, but when we do this for this side it has to go in the opposite direction. So I'm hoping when I thread this together I'll get it to go the right way. If not, I might have to undo it and then re-thread it on again, because I can't remember which way I threaded this piece on to begin with, but let's see if we can. So basically you're threading that through and then putting, oh yeah, I think I've done it right the first time. Have I? No, not quite. I have to go like that. Then I've done it right the first time. Okay, so you're threading the loop, or the pin sort of piece through that loop in the leather, and this piece is the lovely texture on both sides, so it doesn't matter which way round you use it. And so you thread that through like so, and for the one on this side it has got to go through in this direction, and for the one on the other side it would have been the opposite way round. So basically how I just did that then, I think that would work. You just slide this out and flick it back round the other way, and then fold this in half. And then to have somewhere for the rest of your straps to go through, so it'll go through the buckle and then you'll have a length depending on how long or short you want the straps. So you need like one of these little pieces, kind of like the little bits you have on belts or on a wrist strap, that stops the end piece from flapping around. And originally when I put mine together I thought this was supposed to go over both pieces, but it doesn't. It just goes over the front one, so that joining sort of rivet in there is going to be hidden when we actually sew this all together. But this is how this goes together, and when you watch the instructional video she goes through this multiple times, taking it apart and then showing you the other way of putting it together as well. So she really goes through that in nice detail for you to be able to get that perfectly. And then the way that this works is part of these holes need to go into piece number 6 to secure it, but before we do that we actually have to sew this top portion first to get that all secure, and then we're going to be going through the 3 layers of leather to attach it onto here. So we were taking our needle, coming up through the big hole. So you know I said before near the beginning that there's big holes in different places? That is a guide for where we're attaching it, and then because we're doing this bit of sewing up here it's also a guide for where we're starting our sewing as well. So you want to go in with one needle, make those even, take the other needle and come up the next hole above the large hole, because we want to sew that upper part. So we'll pull that through. Then once we've got that into position we're pulling that one over and then going with the first needle back down this hole with the saddle stitch. I was finding it easier to follow the saddle stitch doing this piece than I was with those tiny little pieces I was doing yesterday. So it could have just been I was losing concentration, or it could have just been that they were more fiddly to do. But this piece I actually found pretty simple. I thought this was going to be quite difficult to do. And now I've said that I'll probably go wrong on this one. But I did find this piece really simple to do. So now we're going to go up here. And then we pull that one out of the way. I'll carry on with this piece going around this top part, and when we get to the point where we've got to attach it onto here I'll come back to you. Okay, I've now got to the other big hole on the other side, and once you've got to here, it's at this point you're pulling this thread backwards, going back through with this needle. So you're going back through the two big holes on here, and then you're now going to pull in the big hole from the actual yellow piece of leather, or whichever your contrast colour is. So now with the actual saddle stitch, this is the point where you tug the two together, and then you come back in with the back one and you go down the next hole, and we're now going through 3 layers of leather at a time. Now I was flipping this round the opposite direction because I find it easier so with the saddle stitch at the beginning of the tutorial video that Pop Sewing do, she was saying how you pull this thread backwards and then go through it, and you always want to keep it in the same direction. So whenever I've been going around a curve, I'm still staying in the same direction. So I find sometimes turning the piece that I'm working on helps me. So that's how I've kind of been doing it, and now I've just forgotten my train of thought of where I've got to. So that one's just come out from underneath. Okay, so now, yeah. So we're going to pull this one away, and then I'm going to go back through that hole. And again, it's good working on your glass mat. Don't get confused by the sound the buckle is making if it taps the glass mat, but because we're now going through 3 leather holes, or 3 pieces of leather, it's nice to go down onto the glass mat so that you can hear that little clink of the needle coming through the hole, so you know when you're in the right position. So we can pull that tight and then come up through the back hole, and then pull that out of the way and go down, checking where we are. Can I hear the needle? There we go. Okay. Right, and then we're just going to go all of the way around this piece here, and then we're going to do the snipping off the ends and using our fray check on there to secure those little ends into position as well. So we've got all of that sewn on now, so we've got both of our buckle parts. So basically the straps will attach to the handle that we added on here. They'll go through these pieces, and then they will buckle onto these to be able to adjust the width of the straps for the actual backpack. I thought the next bit was going to be the really time-consuming sewing bit, but it's another slightly simpler sort of piece, so we'll do the next bit together as well. The next bit requires piece number 6 that we've just been adding onto, plus piece number 8, which is the top of the bag with the zip in there. So I might move the zips more towards the middle, but this one we are now going to attach onto this. I don't think it matters. She wasn't saying that there was a specific way round it needed to go, but we need to attach these two together using these end holes, and she said this one is overlapping. I keep saying and she said, but it's annotations on her video. They're overlapping. The cream is overlapping the yellow colour, or the pink would be overlapping the black colour if you have the other colourway version. And for this one, she said we need a piece of thread that is 2 times the length of this, so it's even bigger than my screen at the moment. Can I zoom you out a little bit? Yeah, I can. So twice the length of this cream piece, number 8. We apparently need to sew this piece. All of these measurements have been very accurate so far, and I've really appreciated the amount of thread that they have given. Like when you get to the end of something, you're not left with tiny little pieces to deal with attached to your needles. You've got a little bit left, so there's a bit of leeway in there, which is very nice, because obviously when you're making something yourself, you never know exactly how much thread you're going to need, and it's always the way that you've like ran out a little bit too early, or you've got loads left over or something. So it's really nice to have the actual amount of thread that you're going to need for sewing certain bits together, already measured out for you. So this is the method that we learnt at the beginning, remember, where you go back through your thread, and then it does this cool thing where it keeps it on the needle. I'm really going to remember that for the future now. That is so useful. Okay, so we want to make sure we're not putting our pieces in anything else, because we've got quite a long length here together now, and we want to attach these two together. And we can use one of our clips with our bits of scrap leather on to protect our leather, just to hold this into position, so that it's going to be a bit easier as we work with it. It's going to be held into place nicely. So we're going to go with one of our needles. We're going to go up through the back of the yellow, and then up through there, and then make these even, and then we take the other needle and come up through the second hole in the back of the yellow, and then the second hole in the white. Okay, and then we move that one out of the way, and then we carry on with our saddle stitch, which we are going to be absolute experts with by the time we finish this backpack. This bit joined together. I do find actually her tip of rolling the glue with the end of the snippers is actually really helpful if you're making one of these. I do find that very helpful to get the glue to sort of get into all of the fibres. But yes, the next part is to do exactly the same thing, and sew the cream overlapping the yellow on the other side. And also I'm getting so much more confident at doing that back stitch bit that you have to do to kind of end off the threads. So I'm going to start this one, and when I get to the last bit I'm going to come back and show you the back stitch bit in good detail, because I was struggling with it a bit yesterday. I wasn't quite sure what I was doing, but I understand it more now. So I'm going to start this going, and once I get to the last little bit I'll come back to you and be able to show you more concisely and more accurately how you're supposed to do that little bit of back stitching. You can tell I'm getting quicker as well actually, because I've only been filming for 6 minutes. I already spoke to you and I've got that much stitching done. And before it took me like half an hour to do, well, 6 times that probably, so I guess that probably is about the same time really. Anyway, we've got to this point now. I've just come up through the back here, so now I'm going to move that one out of the way and pull it backwards and go back through. So I'm still finishing off the actual saddle stitch at the moment, but I thought I would come back to you here so you can kind of see how you're carrying on with your saddle stitch. Move that one backwards, then go down this way, and then you've got the bit where they're overlapping so you can pull it tightly. Now we're going back up through the last hole like this, and then we're going to pull that one out of the way and go back down these 2 holes. However, normally once we have gone back down and pulled it taut, we normally then would come back up the next hole, but there is no next hole because we're ending here. So we're actually going to go backwards on ourselves and come back up the next hole but the previous hole, because we're doing the back stitch part of it. So we're going back up that hole. Now if we have both next to each other, we're kind of reversing, going the opposite way, and the one we just came back up through the hole with, we're now going to pull out of the way, and we're going to take the other needle and go back through that hole. So it's a bit tricky because we're now probably going through that specific hole like for the 4th time, but we're pulling that one back down through the hole, and now that one you could do another back stitch to make it even more secure, but we're now back on the inside of the bag, so I'm going to leave that one at that point. And then to get this one back on the inside of the bag, we're just literally going to go back down the next hole. So you're not quite doing a saddle stitch to do the backwards reverse kind of thing, but you are then working it so that you're only double stitching over a couple of these to then bring all of your threads to the inside to make it nice and neat. So sorry for the clonking of the metal on my glass mat, but I definitely understand that much more now, and hopefully that was a more concise way of explaining it rather than whatever I said yesterday. I don't know if I even explained it yesterday, I can't remember, but now I think, how many times have I backstitched? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe this is like the 8th or 9th time, possibly 10th time we've done the backstitching now, and I actually understand more now, and it's a little bit kind of easier to do as well when you know that there's a specific side as well that you want the threads to end on to. And from these 2 bits, you know, when we've been sewing these 2 pieces together, we have actually ended up with a decent amount of thread left over, you know, probably roughly 12 inches. So I'm going to put those to one side, because do you remember yesterday we had enough left from like the first bits that we were sewing to use for some of the subsequent pieces that were smaller pieces. And I think actually the majority of the small pieces, I think perhaps they're done now. I think it is just the big pieces of securing the sides to the back and the front. Yeah, I think actually we might be through doing any smaller pieces, but I'm going to keep all of these little short bits just in case we can make use of them. But I'll probably say this at the beginning of the video as well. If you ever struggle to thread your needles, this waxed thread is brilliant. Because it is waxed, it doesn't keep fraying on the ends, so it's very easy to thread your needle, which is very great. I mean, sometimes it's poor eyesight that you can't thread a needle, but sometimes it's the annoyingness of the fraying and you can't get it to go through the eye. But this has been extremely easy. I think pretty much every time I threaded the needle, I've got it through first or second time. So I do really appreciate that wax thread. And actually, I know we are going to be using quite a bit to sew the front and back of the bag together, but actually I do think we're going to have a decent amount of this left over. And you can also do really cool crafting projects with waxed thread, making your own, what's the binding called? Is it called the stab stitch binding? Something like that. But I've wanted to make journals in that way before, and I did actually buy some wax thread to be able to do it with, and I've still not got around to making them, but I should hopefully have some of this left over to be able to do some actual binding of journals as well, whether I just use plain paper, jelly printed paper or pattern papers. But yeah, I'm excited to do that too. But I think the next step of this is going to be securing the front and backs of this onto here, because now we've got this whole piece together. I haven't watched the next bit of the video yet, but I presume that we possibly do this inside out and secure these pieces on, and this one we're going to be going through 3 layers to catch in the inside and outside of this pocket that we can access from the front of the bag. So yeah, I'm going to start watching this now. I might include some of the clips of this, but I think I might do most of this sort of sitting on the sofa, so I can kind of enjoy the process a little bit more, but we'll see. If you see some clips of it, then you'll see them. If not, then I'll be back when most of the bag is put together. I have decided, I think if I go and try and sit on the sofa and do this, because you need 14 times the length of this for your string to be able to get all the way around, I'm going to get in a very big tangle. So I am going to stay here sitting at my desk trying to finish this off. I don't know whether I will do both sides today. I might give myself a break and come back again tomorrow and do the other side, but I'll try and include as much of the footage as I can. I know it's going to be very boring and repetitive. I'll see how much I can speed it up by. If I can speed it up really fast and it not look peculiar, then I might do that, because it's quite fun to see something come together. But this is going to be taking quite a process, quite a while, to actually stitch all of the way around this. However, I've been getting into a routine of putting one needle with all its thread over here and stuff, so as I'm working, I'm kind of in a flow. So I think it is going to be relatively simple as long as I concentrate. I haven't got the telly on, I'm actually just concentrating while I do this. So yeah, I will speed up the rest of this and I'll come back to you once this whole side is on. Okay, so that has been quite the mammoth task to go all of the way around the perimeter of that, but as I've been doing it, I've noticed a few things I just wanted to mention. So, obviously, when you're starting, if you're starting with 14 times the length of this, you've got a very long piece of string. So when you're working, it's probably better to work somewhere that isn't your craft desk, because every single little thing on my desk that the thread could get caught around, it has got caught around. Most of the time it was catching on the bulldog clips that were holding things in place for me, but I've had it around my paintbrushes in my pen pot. It dragged an ink pad off, it dragged some of my embossing powder off, it went around the fray check, it went around my archival cleaner. It was getting everywhere. So maybe do work somewhere where it's a little bit less busy, so when you're flinging these long strings around, you're not like getting tangled on things. But talking of getting tangled, because the strings are that long, you are going to get knots and tangles and things, but because the thread is wax, they're very easy to undo. And also both needles had a piece this long left, so probably twice the height of the bag, maybe a bit more than twice the height of the bag left. So knowing that, you could start with a slightly shorter string if you wanted to, but also knowing that if you do keep getting in a knot and you have to keep taking the needle off to untangle a knot, or in a couple of cases I was not paying attention and started trying to do running stitch or back stitch rather than the saddle stitch, so I'd gone in the wrong hole, so I had to, you know, take it out for that. But if you are keeping doing that and then the end of your thread gets really frayed, you know that you've got plenty of thread left, so you can snip a bit off to be able to thread your needle again easier, or just because it's annoying being that frayed. Also, I found you were getting a little bit more tangled towards the, well, tangled in the sense of a big tangle towards the beginning because you got lots more thread, tangle in the sense of small little knots and things later on, because obviously that long piece of thread has gone up and down all of these holes to go all of the way around this bag, and so the wax, it's still waxy, but it's not as covered in wax as it was before, so it's getting more likely to get knotted. So just a, you know, warning, you might get more knots towards the end, but also towards the end, because the threads are getting shorter because you've been using it all, it gets quicker, the process gets quicker. So I think we started here. It felt like forever until I just got round this corner, and then getting all the way round to this point. But then from sort of this point onwards, well, once you're getting into only 2 bits of leather, it's going quicker because you're only having to line up 2 holes. But as the thread is getting shorter and shorter as you're going all of the way around, it's getting quicker because you're not having to like multiply or multiply sort of pull thread through the hole, or you're not going to have to check a massive length of thread for a knot before you put it through the hole and things like that. So if you're doing this bag and you get to, you know, like just round the first corner and you're thinking, oh my goodness, this is going to take forever, it does get quicker as you go. And I mean, I think I've been sat here for about 3 hours today, but I've managed to put both of these bracket pieces on, sew these 2 pieces together, and sew that entire piece on this bag as well. So I think the bits I've got left to do is to repeat this entire process, sewing the whole back of the bag on, and then I think it is just attaching the straps after that. So but I am going to leave this for a couple of days while I catch up on doing some other work, and then I'll come back to this, but it will be a couple of seconds for you, so you don't have to wait. So I'll see you in a couple of days. Okay, so it's actually a couple of days later. I had to get a few other deadlines out of the way, but we're on the final stages of the bag. I've just got to sew on the back panel. I say just, it's probably going to take me a couple of hours to sew all of the way around. And then I think the last things to do are turn it inside out and put the straps on, which require that little flat-headed screwdriver that we got given with the sort of hardware that goes on there as well. So this whole process, I'm going to take all of the stickers off at this point now, just in case, you know, it's difficult to get one of them off, or you know, something at some point. I think it's easier just to take them all off now because I don't need to know all of the numbers because I only have the last piece to sew together. But yeah, the process of sewing the back of the bag on is yeah, this is the back of the bag, yeah. The process of sewing the back of the bag on is exactly the same as sewing the front of the bag on that I've already done. So if I cut out a lot of the footage, then you know, that'll be why, because it's pretty much the exact same process. But so far I looked and I have recorded 4.5 hours of footage, and I reckon there's at least 2 more hours to sew this unless I've got quicker. And then we've got to put the hardware on as well, so it is definitely a 5+ hours, probably more like 6 to 7 hours of making, although I have been filming at the same time and stopping to say things and following the instructions, although that's how you would be following the instructions at home. You'd be watching the video and pausing it and then trying to figure out how to do it. So I think it is probably quite a true representation of how long this bag will take, and I've probably already said all of this at the beginning of the video because I'm going to film the beginning at the end. But yeah, I think a couple more hours to get this sewn together. I have a feeling this bit might be trickier to get round because you've got these buckles in the way, but the way you actually sew this together is you sew it together inside out completely. So we already sewed that together inside out, and we are still sewing inside out this time, and we're using those large holes to line up with where the side portions overlap just there as well. So it is going to be a very similar process to the other side, in where you sort of line things up and everything, and doing it inside out means that all of the stitching, although I think it's pretty neat for my first time sewing on leather, it's going to be inside the bag, which is nice. So once we have got this completely sewn on, all we'll do is just undo the zips here, and then we can fold it in the correct way, and you'll have all, oh, there's another sticker there, and we'll have all of the stitching on the inside, which is why we're always putting the glue on anywhere that would be the inside as well. But yeah, I think this is going to come together really nicely. So I will carry on stitching all of this together. As I said, I might not include the footage. It sort of depends if I feel like there's somewhere that I've got stuck and, you know, found it useful to tell you. But again, we're going to need 14 times the length of this side. I do think you could probably get away with 12 times the length. However, it's nice to have that extra there. As I said before, the wax, you know, is going up and down, all of these holes. So eventually the wax is wearing off the string more. So it is nicer to have that bit of extra. And also if you get fraying ends, or you need to cut the needle off the end to rethread it or something as well, you've got that little bit of leeway in your amount of thread. Because can you imagine if you got almost all the way around and you just had like a little bit too short to finish the last bit off? You'd be very annoyed. So yeah, I will see you again a little bit later. Okay, so it's actually the next day from when I sewed the back of this on, because I got lazy and didn't want to finish it off. But this was actually a quicker process than the front side. I don't know if it is just because I got quicker, or because around this bottom edge you only had 2 pieces of leather, rather than on this side you had the 3 pieces because of the accommodating for the outside pocket, whereas the inside pocket is set into the bag, so you didn't have it on the seam. So I don't know if it's that made it quicker, or that I've just got much better at the saddle stitch, that it just went so much quicker going around this bag. I think I would recommend though, you know these parts that we did fairly early on, I think I would say before you sew this bag piece on, then do this bit. Rather than doing this bit right at the beginning when you're still more getting used to the stitch, I would say just before you need to sew this piece on, do this sort of step here, because I think once you've got more comfortable with that saddle stitch, this bit is less confusing, because I kept going the wrong direction so many times on this, or trying to do a running stitch rather than a saddle stitch and stuff as well. I think if I had left it to the point before this last bit that I did yesterday, I think I would have been much more confident with sewing these on and not going in the wrong direction and getting confused. So I think that could be a better order to kind of sew this backpack together. But the next step is now to open the inside out backpack with the gorgeous metal zip that's on here, really lovely smooth metal zip, and then we've got to turn this in the other way. So we've just got to kind of pull the inside of the bag, I think that's going to be the easiest way to try and do it. Like push the bottom. No wonder they cut this bit out of their video. It is actually kind of tricky to do it the other way because it's so used to staying in this direction now, and the leather is nice and stiff. So I've got to get this corner going as well at the same time. Oh, you can see that beautiful orangey yellow colour on there. There we go. It's a bit tricky to get that started to turn inside out because of the stiffness and the quality of the leather. But we've nearly done it. Flip these bits inside out and this bit, and then you can just kind of manipulate it a bit to make sure all of this is folding out nicely. And get that bottom corner going. Oh, this is a lovely little bag. Sorry for the clonking noises. Okay, I see one piece here that obviously pulled back through, so I'm going to have to trim that off and glue it again just to fix that piece. But I think the rest of the stitching looks pretty good. I can't see any other bits that have pulled out at all. Okay, so we've now got our bag turned in the right way. We can pull the zips closed again, and then we can add on our zip pulls to make this a much easier process to pull the zip. Now my one, in the video they show adding the zip to the front one, adding the little pull, but mine already came on there, so this could be maybe an older video for when they first released it or something, and they've changed it since then, I'm not sure. Sorry for those clonking noises. But we have got the other two here to go on the top part of the bag. So you just want to push them in. Oh, that's really clever. Oh. I wondered how she was doing it and it wasn't going to come back out again. There is actually a mechanism in here that if you go to push that in, can you see that little bit of metal moves backwards to allow it to go in, and then it comes back again so it's not going to come off. That's really snazzy. I don't think normal zips have that. That's a very high quality kind of zip to have that sort of feature on. I don't think I've ever seen that on a bag before. It's always really annoying because they come off and then you have to get some pliers to kind of put them back on and make the gap smaller, but that's really clever. I'll show you it again. You just push it in and there's like a little bit of metal in there that's moving backwards. I don't know if you can properly see it, but maybe if I show you it now, it's on. Down here, this little bit of metal there, it moved backwards to let it in. So I think that's really cool and clever. So I made sure I put these on so that the it's not this side, it's this side without the little end piece both ways on this one, so that you can see the nice side of it. And then that zip is so much easier to pull now you've got those on there too. I reckon as well, if you're really good at sewing, you could do some kind of pretty fabric lining to kind of match the kind of colour as well, or just make some sort of like drawstring bag that you could put inside it so that then you wouldn't be worried about things leaking or crumbs and stuff inside the bag. But I love that you have this extra little pocket on the inside, so you can put your phone in there maybe, or your wallet, to stop it, or you know, to make it easier for you to be able to find it. I love that. That's really gorgeous. So the last step now is to add our straps on here. So I've got all of the pieces, but I am going to have to watch the video to know exactly how to do it. But we've got the two, like, almost look like belts here to be able to put it on. So I'm presuming these ones go on the top, and then you use these ones as your adjustability with your buckles that we put on. So, and then we also have 3 of these. I am presuming that we only need 2 and they've given us 1 spare. And then we have our little flat-headed screwdriver tool that we got in here as well. So I'm just gonna carry on watching the video to figure out exactly how to do this, and then I'll come back. Okay, so I did the first one so I could be confident in telling you how to do it, but it's actually really, really, really simple to do. So you do just unwind this kind of belt piece, and you put it through the D-ring, and then pull it through and check that those holes are going to line up nicely. Then you do only need 2 of these, and they are actually in 2 parts, so you have to unscrew them first. And you get 1 piece that is flat on the top. You can see that, flat on the top, and then it's got like the little channel inside there, and the other piece is an actual screw thread piece with the flat-headed sort of place to put the screwdriver. And so what you want to do is take the flat piece and poke it through the top there, so that when it is all put together you'll see just the flat piece and not the screwdriver headed piece. And this, you need a little bit of force to push that through. And then you want to put the other bit through the other hole so that you can see the screwdriver piece on the back side there. And then you want to bring those 2 together, start to twist it so you can start to get them to link together, and then bring in your little flat-headed screwdriver that you get as part of the kit. And you can continue to screw that in. It's the trickiest part is just catching the first screw thread in there, I think. Just twist it a couple of times to get it going, and then use the screwdriver. And you'll know when it's fully tightened because you'll get to a point where the top or the front one just keeps spinning. So as you're tightening it on the back, the other one will just spin around at the same time once it gets to the tightest point. There we go. So we've now got that on there, and then all you want to do is keep this flat, and then when you get to your buckle you put it under that bit there, pull it through, pick a hole. I did the second hole on the other side, I think. Put the piece through the hole of the leather strap, tuck it under, and then there you have your 2 straps for the back of the bag. And then you can just adjust them however you want to. One of the holes is still stuck in that one, but you can just adjust it, and you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 holes. So you can do this more for a child as well with smaller straps, or you can have it as more of a low-hanging rucksack as well with the longer straps, however you want to do it. But yeah, I'm just going to watch the last little bit of the video just in case there's anything else that I need to share with you. Okay, so that is it. That is your finished bag. So I hope you've enjoyed this video looking at the beautiful leather contrast colour backpack DIY kit from Pop Sewing, and thank you so much again to Pop Sewing for sending me this beautiful kit to play with. I've had so much fun putting this together. They sent it to me a few months back, but I've been so busy I haven't had a chance to actually make the bag, but I wish I had made it sooner because I've really, really, really enjoyed the process of this. It's been very relaxing just to sit for a couple of hours and do a bit of sewing, and learning a new sewing stitch has been really cool as well. And don't forget that you can use the tracked link in the description below the video to support me. Plus, you can also use the code CRAFTYPOTENTIAL, which I will put up here, and it'll be the first thing in the description box below the video as well, to get 20% off your order too. So you've got a nice little discount code there to get you on your way for your first project if you want to have a go at this. And there are plenty of bags on there to choose from, over 200 different designs for you to check out. And you can create your own gorgeous leather bag just like this. And I love the fact that this has got the front pocket. I think when I'm using it I'm going to put my purse in the front pocket just to make it really easy, so you can like sling it off of one shoulder and get to the purse really easily. And then I think if I'm back home I'd probably put my Oyster card and things in the pocket, maybe keys in the pocket as well, or just anything that you often need to grab quickly and gets lost at the bottom of your bag, like lip seal and things like that. But yeah, I think this is going to be a stunning bag, and I think it's going to go really nicely with my navy blue with white spot coat and also my grey coat as well, because it's got these yellow accents. I think the mustard yellow colour goes really nicely with navy and with grey as well. And the other colourway of this one, which is now back in stock. This one is, I think it's called white, and then the white has the yellow accent, and then the other colourway is a pink bag with a black bottom, but it does also have pink pieces here, so it's almost entirely pink. It's just this base piece that's black on the other colourway of it as well. So yeah, really hope you enjoyed this video. Please do check out those links if you're interested, and take advantage of the 20% off discount code as well. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again in the next video.